Hello, everybody out there in TikTok land, Facebook world, everywhere. There's going to be a live clip of this going on or whatever. I'm trying to print some things and it ain't happening. So we're just going to forget about it. Welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I am Monty Anderson, your host here at 412 Productions, The Art of Monty Anderson. And everything is supposed to be going through, but it is not. So we are just going to cancel that print job and move forward. Today's topic is nostalgia. And I'm going to flip this around. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. Now we're all the right way, looking at everything that we're supposed to. And cancel, cancel. Welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. Everything is getting canceled that I'm doing over here right now. Just give me a second. I was going to print out some nostalgic items, but apparently, you know, it doesn't want to pick the right tray to go to, which is my, just regular paper. It wants to go to the photo small 4x6 paper that I do not have inside my printer, and and that's fine. So I've got to hit cancel everywhere right now. So I apologize to everybody because ain't nothing working like I want it to this morning. We're having a lot of technical difficulties. That's why we're a little bit late for the 412 show, but we'll get through this. I think that's it. I think we're done. I think we're done. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right. So last night I woke up, had to let the animals out, and good morning, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and follow. I am Monty Anderson, your host here at 412 Productions. Can you hear me okay? I got the mic a little bit higher than normal with my Elvira beanie on this morning. One of my faves, Elvira, the jam. Um, and so when I woke up, my brain started going. And it was like, there was this old comic book that was bloody, it was gory, and it involved a snowman. It was like, what was that? What was that? What was that series? What was that comic book series? Hey, good morning, Mister Roy Joe Bradley, Twinkle Toe Sparkle Butt, Twilight Loving Junior. Hopefully you get to feeling better, buddy. I know you're not so great. You're under the weather a little bit. Do bros still exist? The kind with tall black socks and lifted trucks? I don't know. I'm sure there's a group out there for that on TikTok and or Facebook. Might even be able to find them on Marketplace. But yes, Roy, there is a sickness going around. That C word is going around, so you can't technically say that word anymore without being restricted. Uh, the vid, if you will. Um, and so my mind started going on that subject of whatever happened to these old comic books that I used to read, that I used to love. I mean, this comic book was so bloody, so gory. It was just awesome. and and so it was just like, what literally happened to these things? And so it's just like certain things, the nostalgia wears off, if you will. You know, I did get sea monkeys from there. I got a few things from the back of the ads in the magazines. Of course, I never clipped. I just hand wrote everything, so I never tore the coupons out or anything like that out of my comic books that I had as a kid. But I did hand write everything, down, and I got a few things here and there from there. Uh, So the whole aspect of just whatever happened to these comic books, whatever happened to the ads. I mean, there's still ads in comic books, but now they're, the X-ray glasses. Yeah, I didn't get those, or anything like that. And but no, the Sea Monkeys I did get, but Sea Monkeys you could seem to get pretty much anywhere. I mean, Walmart sold them. A lot of the grocery stores back in the day sold them, just on the shelf because basically they were just little shrimp, waiting to be put in water. Um, and once they hit water, they activated. Almost like they were freeze dried or something like that, cryogenic inside this little bag. You know, and so that was cool. And it thanks for the gifts out there and the likes. That always helps us, pushes us up into the popular realm of the shows out there, especially in the fandom side. Um, and then I got to thinking about another one. Whatever happened to Tim Vigil? Tim Vigil was a great, great mind. They compared him a little bit to Bernie Wrightson, and if you don't know who Bernie Wrightson is and things like that, great, phenomenal artist that did Frankenstein and Swamp Thing and a lot of other, horror type books and characters out there because that was his forte. Bernie Wrightson's just a master, but Tim Vigil was an up and comer, and I just, after Faust, I didn't think he did anything else. I mean, I knew he did a few things here and there for different companies, but as far as just, I thought he fell off the face of the earth, to be honest. And so I looked him up this morning whenever I was up with the pigs, basically, and that was like 11:30. Um, and so I found the comic book I was looking for. It was actually called Snowman by Antarctic Press, and I can't remember the storyline on it, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at that storyline to see what it was really about. But they had at least 2 to 3 different series on that book, and it was just a phenomenal book, and I loved it. It was the snowman going around rampaging and taking people out. And of course the group of humans trying to thwart it and destroy it, of course. And then Faust, bloody, disgusting black and white comic book, a very unique character. They did a movie on it too, so I'm gonna have to go look that one up. It's on several different of the streaming services, and I forgot about the movie. So that's another one of those movies that I'm gonna have to find. Kind of like in the vein of Spawn when it came out. This movie came out in 2000, uh, and so yeah, I'm gonna have to go dig that one up because the comic book was great, and then I remember bits and pieces of the movie because I saw it on HBO, I think it was back in the day, and it was just like I didn't get to see it all, but what I did see of it was good. I mean, I'm not going to say it was great because it's the 2000 movie, based off of this comic book character, and they can only do so much. Now, that's another character I wish they would revamp today because that would be cool. And now he's doing a lot of stuff with his brother Joe Vigil as well. He also did some stints on Danzig's comic title, which I believe is, and I can't use the title here, um, but it's Erotica, um, is the title that Rob Danzig has a comic book moniker under. And I know Tim Vigil did stuff for him there, um, and the likes. So he's still around, according to the search that I did. He is still around, still doing things for, you know, comic book companies out there, especially him and his brother, especially right now. And get yourself some V8 Energy, best energy drink out there. All natural energy drink. And they need to be my spokesperson and sponsor. I need to be I need to be their spokesperson, and they need to sponsor me. Kind of like T-Tone with G Fuel. But yeah, nostalgia. All the stuff like Casey brought up, the ads inside of the comic books where kids used to get their dreams fulfilled, X-ray glasses, and so much more was inside those books. Do I have one close? I do not have one close from that era, from the 70s and 80s. No, I don't have any closer. I'd pull one out and show you guys what we're talking about, especially those of you that don't read comic books or haven't read comic books ever in your life. Today's ads now are completely different because now it's full advertisements. Um, of course, you would go there, Roy. Ads just like in the Playboy magazine. No. Completely different ads. Um, you pervert. Um, but no, the I'm just gonna have to grab one so I can show you what kind of ads. They're not like those ads. Um, but yeah, no, the advertisements back in the day were pretty cool for different things because you could get pretty much anything you wanted to through a comic book, and that's boiling down to like you talked about. You could get action figures like the Mego action figures through your comic books back in the day, um, and you could get them for like $1.78, and now see Roy, now you made Casey have to clean up a mess, so because you made him spit his coffee across the house, and now his walls are all dark stained now, and now his carpet's all stained up, and you know now he's got to get the cat and have to wipe down the walls with the cat, those type of things, or one of those snow bunnies outside because and no, not from the Playboy magazine snow bunny. Um, the whole aspect of getting stuff because you can get all kinds of cool stuff through a comic book. And in fact, I'm gonna have to grab one just so we can talk about it. They're right here. Um, I don't want that I don't pick up as much. We'll just pull out Guardians of the Galaxy from Astonishing Tales from back in. Yeah, you guys can see my collection in there. This is an old comic book right here. See the ads right? Never finished high school? You can get your GED. See, you can get a GED through comic books. All right, let's see. 4 men against a savage, far flung future. What year was this? Let's see. Step into the light, Carol Ann. This one is from 1975. All right. So right off the bat, with your advertisements, don't be half a man, be a whole man. The insult that made a man out of Mac. You could become a strong man just like Mac. Right there. That's one of the ads. So you could get all this weight loss and power equipment, on how to get more muscle, bigger chest, bigger arm muscles, broad back and shoulders, tireless legs, more weight, and magnetic personality. And then you flip a couple more pages, you get some action in your comic book, and then, oh my goodness, you get more advertisements. Look at that. This is nothing but advertisements. This is how they made their money basically in the comic book world. You got these three big drafting kits given to you. High pay job in drafting. All for free. Rush coupon today. And then earn $2, $5, $10 or more every week of the year. Plus free prizes regularly. Sell grit in a few hours of your spare time each week. And then over here you could get all kinds of cool stuff from Hercules wristbands to Cessna Acrobat airplane to dog whistle to Planet of the Apes mask, two different kinds or three different kinds, pocket watches, Star Trek exploration. Hey, Roy, speaking of Playboy, you could have gotten a Playboy decal for $1.19 back then. For $2.96, you could have gotten three popular Star Trek instruments: the phaser, the tricorder, and the communicator for $2.95. That's a good deal. X-ray glasses for $1 per pair. 7-foot life-size ghost, only 95 cents. I mean, they had cool stuff. The Bruce Lee Kung Fu outfit, Learn Kung Fu, Atomic Hypnotizer. I mean, all this stuff you could have gotten for next to nothing, you know? And then you go through and it tells you when an ad break's getting ready to come up. An Indian and an Indian and Lincoln Sense, Isokinetics, new breakthrough in muscle building, the Formula One race cars by Corgi. Send 25 cents for Corgi's new 1974 catalog. 40 colorful pages from 75 items, or over 75 items. Reeves International. But right here, I mean, this is just the fun stuff, you know? And then again, you flip through and it says continued after next page because that means, oh, there's advertisements yet again, you know? And you can become taller. You can preserve objects in plastic for fun and profit. 100 decals for free. Go stick crazy. Be a veterinary assistant. Monster Man shows you how to draw monsters. And then you get 2 free books: Succeed in Electronics, describing opportunities in electronics and how to prepare for them, all that good stuff. So these things were chock full of advertisements. So you had, 32 pages of comic books or 28 pages of comic books. And then you had, oh, oh, that's detached right there. Okay. But you could get Thou Hast Demanded It and Thy Wish Has Been Fulfilled. You can get Marvel Treasury editions of different things. You can get motorcycle mechanic books so you can learn how to buy 12 comics for the price of 8, you know, and it gives you the titles and the price in there, which would have been a great deal back then. Every page a giant size 10 by 14, which I've got some of those treasury editions running around here. You've got Mighty Marvel belt buckles. So you had the belt buckles and then more strongman stuff. So the big strongman was a big thing back in the day. More advertisements, comics sold, hypnotized anyone. It shows this lavish lady there. Electronic guitar and amp for only $15.95. So you could have gotten an amp and you could have learned to play guitar, you know? But all kinds of stuff just in here that people would buy because, oh my gosh, it's going to make me get this girl better. It's going to get me this. It's going to get me that. And people selling comic books through, plus baseball cards and other cards. List of items I sell for only 50 cents. You can get my entire list. And now you can find people's list online for free. And then another assortment of action packed ad libs and astonishing addendums. You got words from Stan Lee's soapbox, Kung Fu and Karate right there. So you had advertisements in here and stuff like that. And 11.0 thousand. And then you get to the back and it says, have you seen this coupon before? Mail this handy postage paid coupon envelope for accounting, business management. You can get a job, LaSalle Extension University, and you can be accredited in any of these. And then, of course, never finished high school, you can now get a diploma. So there you go. In Astonishing Tales featuring Guardians of the Galaxy Special Edition with a detached page in there. I didn't know that. So it's always good to go through your stuff every now and again. That way you don't sell false hope to somebody. All right. So there is that some of that nostalgia and 11,000 likes. So that's always awesome. We went to Books a Million yesterday because we're looking for some specific gifts for people for Christmas because we've got a limit on what we're spending, and we drew names and all that good stuff. And so we only do one gift per person, or it can be multiple gifts as long as it stays within this price range. And um, we went to the autograph section and started looking around, and I see the name Jillian Anderson, and I'm like, this can't be like the Jillian Anderson. And if you know who that is, you know who that is. X-Files agent Dana Scully. And so I flip it open, look in the back, and of course, it is her. I'm sitting there looking at it, debating, and Audrey's like, you really want to get that, so you might as well just do it. I'm like, I know, but that's not what we're here for. We're not here for shopping for me, you know. And so we walk around a little bit. We come back to it, and we look over the books again, and it's like, son of a bitch. Okay, I'm taking it home. So I get it right here. Want by Jillian Anderson. Yes, it is autographed on the inside by Jillian Anderson right there. It's kind of like my scribble in there on my stuff, but it's a sex book. A collection of sexual fantasies from women around the world. Want is a revolutionary, sensational, and game changing exploitation or exploration of women's sexuality that asks and answers, how do women feel about sex when they have the freedom to be totally anonymous? The book you hold in your hand started as an invitation to women across the world, a call for women to share the fantasies, thoughts, and feelings that so many of us hold in our hands or hold in our heads, but so rarely speak out loud. So there you go. If you're interested in that one, yes, Ozzy right behind me, right there. And the other ones over there. These are paintings I'm getting ready to work on. But since it was Jillian Anderson, I had to have it, especially with her autograph, because it probably would not have been there again had I gone back. Yeah, the book cover right there is a little messed up in the corner, but other than that, it's a pretty pristine book all the way around. Dun dun dun! It is white cover with pink lettering. So very cool though. You get to find some cool stuff like that every now and again. So it was just like, no, that's definitely coming home. And so yeah, nostalgia. What are some nostalgic items besides Roy and his Playboy that apparently he grew up on? Um, do you guys remember as kids? What nostalgic items do you remember? Because Casey remembered the advertisements inside the comic books, which we never talk about, but now we just did. So, and I thought so. I thought it was a fantastic find. Now, if I could find Duchovny out there, his autograph on a book, 'cause I know he does have a book out there, and I'll be looking for his. That would be a great, bookend piece with David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson's autographs sitting right next to each other, in book form. Um, since they are into aliens too. Now, I would really love to meet them at a comic book convention, a sci-fi convention out there somewhere. Because that would be totally awesome. That would be something I would totally do a piece for and let them autograph it together. and just like I did on a couple occasions, but the people weren't there together at the same time, or they both, canceled the show, which sucks. Yeah, but I understand. At that time it was the CVID word going on at that point in time, and it was like I can understand why they canceled. And I'm talking about Lori Petty and uh, Campbell, um, Mr. Ash himself from the Evil Dead, Bruce Campbell, and yeah, and I get it. I totally understand, but it still sucked because I did a bunch of artwork for him. I did a bunch of Tank Girl stuff. I did a bunch of Ash, uh, the Evil Dead draw ups, and him as the young Ash and the old Ash. And so it just sucks whenever they don't show up. So, but you live with it and you go on. Well, the very next year they came and I wasn't at that show. So because I was already booked at another show. And I'm not talking 2024, I'm talking, or 2025, I'm talking, um, they were coming in 22. I think it was 23 that they were at the next show, and I wasn't able to get into that show. So, um, but yeah, no. Whenever you're out, just finding stuff is very cool. I really didn't want to spend that much on a book, but I did. And books aren't cheap anymore anyway. No matter what you do, because now most of your books, especially if it's a hardcover, start at $30, you know, and then go up from there. Especially if it's a special edition or something like that. Now these are just the regular price of what the book would sell for. They don't charge it at a different price just because they've got an autograph in them, and things of that nature. Now they did have what, four different Ozzy book items there at BAM Books a Million, and so that was cool to see his two books that he wrote, and then they had a special edition book there. It was a big book, so Ozzy 75, and then they had Ozzy and Me or something like that. Um, I can't remember who was the co-author of that one or the author of that one. With Ozzy. Um, but it was to see those, especially since he just passed away, and for me to get these going would be awesome too. These both of these paintings back here, so I can get them on shirts. For everybody out there to enjoy. But yeah, no nostalgia. So, what other nostalgic items do you guys remember? Growing up that you don't see now, uh, like Casey said, sea monkeys. You can still find sea monkeys now, but it's just not a big draw. Like it used to be. Oh my gosh, we got these living organisms inside this little bitty tank with magnifying glasses all over it. Because that's how you could see them as they float by. You could look through that little magnifying glass that was built into the tank. And you had about five of them on the side. So anyone you looked through, you could see those sea monkeys floating around. And of course, they drew them completely different than what they actually look like, than what the little shrimp look like. A chia pet. You can still find chia pets. Um, I got my mother one that had Grogu on it, Baby Yoda. As they called him for so long. And so you can find chia pets on a regular basis. They make so many different ones. Um, what other ones did they make? Uh, they had like this dog or something that you poured it on its back and it grew the hair on its back. The chia pet stuff, the chai or whatever it was, the mini green plants, and and yeah. So now the chia pets are still around. A lot of things are making a comeback though, because you've got those terracotta pots that you dip in water, you let soak in water, and then you put the the seed stuff on it, and then you keep it wet for a few days, thereafter, and then you just water it once it all grows. Um, but yeah, I mean, just going back through those advertisements there, just crazy how much people were, and people still are today, uh, are into the fitness stuff, you know, I mean, right off the bat, get bigger like Mac because he was a scrawny little guy that got sand kicked in his face, and that's how the story started. You know, and so he took matters into his own hands and became this massive guy that wouldn't get sand kicked in his face, and he kicked the sand in the faces of the other people. So it was basically a revenge story, why he got bigger. You know, but then as you saw, we saw at least 3 or 4 different ads for you know, getting big and building muscle and things of that nature. And of course, you've got that today, but then you've got the people that don't care, you know, that don't care to get the muscle, that don't care to get, you know, swolled out there. You know, they're gonna sit on their couch and read their Playboy magazine, right? And um, you know, you got your tissue handy. Oh, how are y'all doing out there? I was having some technical difficulties this morning, just like you saw as I was bouncing back and forth trying to get the prints of the snowman and the Foss. So I wanted to really show you guys that stuff. You can go look it up yourself. But Snowman by Antarctic Press and Faust. I can't remember what title it was under, but great nostalgic books of the day. If you're into to black and white and blood and gore horror type books with some nudity, yeah, that's what Faust was about. Uh, Snowman Snowman was very close to that back in the day as well. Scantily clad females, and then lots of blood on white snow, and ice. So another good horror book right there as well. Um, you can't knock those because they're just fantasticals. And that was the stuff that I was reading back in the day, especially in the '90s, in the 2000s and stuff like that. Um, of course, the '90s was the era of what's called the bad girl age, because you had Razor, you had Lady Death, you had um, who else did you had the dang it, what was her name? Something Twins. Um, you had Shotgun Mary, you had Warrior Nun Ariella, you had, I mean, all these scantily clad females, and some of them even had mashups together in comic books where they joined forces from two different comic book universes, you know, and and that was the '90s in a nutshell, especially the mid to late '90s, early 2000s was the bad girl era. I mean, you had people talent like Jim Ballant drawing these bad girls, like even on Catwoman, she was getting very risque back in the day. Um, and then yeah, Jim Ballant drew for the Gene Simmons Dominatrix comic. I can't remember exactly what the title was on it, but yes, Gene Simmons had a comic book out there that was based off of a dominatrix, you know, and so all of that stuff, as you just run it through your head, it's just like that's what sold. It still sells today, and we're talking about sex, you know, and it still sells today. That's why you get you know people on here, unlike me, that have spaghetti strap t-shirts or spaghetti strap shirts on with no bra, and and oh, I wonder how I'm getting all my likes, you know, and they're sitting at what we've got in likes, or people in likes, where they let's just flip it, they've got 10,000 likes, but 20,000 people watching, you know, 20K viewers. I'm at 6,000 or 16,000 and a half likes, and it's showing that I've got 2 viewers, even though I know I've got more, because whenever I end the show, it'll say I had 500 people watch, and I'm sorry to you all that I don't have big bosoms and a spaghetti strap shirt on, and then my beard and mustache. Just kidding. Unless you're into the freak show, and then you can see the bearded lady. And we'll go over to Roy's house for that one. I love you, Roy. Um, but no, seriously, it's just the things we remember it from what we watched as a kid. I mean, all of the old TV shows that were on that were Marvel related. Spider Man when it was on. The Captain America TV show that was on. Hokiest, and then the Flash TV show. Um, just the hokiest things in the world, but we loved them as kids because it's our superheroes. I wasn't a big Captain America fan, so when it came on, I watched it, but it wasn't like ooh like I was with Spider Man because Spider Man is just a cool character. Now that one was pretty dry and bland. Um, it's nothing like the movies of today where they've got the actual, you know, the fun loving Spider Man that's quipping out while he's fighting, like he does in the comic book. And so, you know, all the characters that have excuse me that have portrayed Spider-Man through the years, your newest one is more comic accurate than the rest, if you will, because he's throwing out the quips left and right, you know, whereas Maguire and Garfield and Tom Holland is the newest. Um, were kind of dry as Spider-Man. Yeah, they had their fun, quirky moments, but they weren't throwing out the quips, the comedy, and the comedy gold that you get in the comic book. You know, where he's just constantly talking to the bad guys they're fighting. You know, and so that's where Tom Holland's character comes in and brings the comic book character to life in reality. You know, and that's just the stuff that you love to see as they draw it out of the comic book and put it into the characters, and then the characters, Tom Holland and those bring it to life because oh, this is what he does in the comic books, and some of these guys have never read a comic book in their life, you know, and then you got some that are comic book hounds that have read comic books their entire life, you know, and they're getting to play a role, of one of their favorite characters in the comic books. Again, Captain America, Superman, a lot of your mainstreams, Iron Man, I was never a big fan of. I like the obscure, uncanny X-Men group of all these people brought from all different cultures of the world and put together as a team, and the harmony that they live in, no matter what your creed is, what your color of your skin is, you know, and um, just the continuity that they create, that's just awesome in and of itself. Whereas you can tell the era that some of these were written in because you have primarily no continuity in the book, when it comes to other diverse regions of the world, if you will. Um, and that was the beauty of Uncanny X Men because they did bring all parts of the world together. I mean, in one book because you've got Russians, Africans, uh, you got Catholics, you've got. I mean, the list goes on and on. What is involved in Uncanny X Men, and if you've never read it, go start, especially the 1963 run that Stan Lee created, and up until 2002 when they destroyed it. Now, in there too, they did start a new X Men book. It was just called X Men, not Uncanny X Men. But Uncanny X Men, let's get real, started out as just regular X Men until later on, closer to the 90s issue in there, they changed the title to Uncanny X Men, and then it continued its run of the volume one as that. Um, and then X Men came along when Jim Lee was popular, and they did the whole five cover, start off, and then the book just went from there. Um, and so, it, the advertisements are still running rampant in there too. So, but no, just the stuff we used to watch as kids, the stuff we used to be able to get out of magazines and stuff like that at a cheap price. At that, as you heard some of the prices that I was talking about in there. You know, now if we try to buy this stuff, X-ray glasses, oh, we can get those for $10 now. Those type things. Where you guys you're getting them for $1 a pair in there, and that was a lot of money back in the '70s for a kid, uh, especially a kid that because I would have been 4 years old and when that book came out, so I wasn't reading comic books yet. I didn't start reading comic books until the '80s, because I started going down to my grandparents' house in '84, and I don't think I actually got talking to the neighbor kid until probably '85, and somewhere in that range. And then because we were shooting hoops together and playing Dungeons and Dragons, and all kinds of other stuff out in the woods, going on hunting adventures and things of that nature. And it's just being kids, outside all the time, riding bikes, going down to the ponds, going to the lake, which was a mile away from my parents' house or grandparents' house. And, you know, and that's what I was there for. I was there fishing and learning to garden and all that good stuff. And learning life lessons from my grandparents, you know. And 24.1, so appreciate that. But no, life comes at you quick. And all that stuff, that nostalgia that you remember, it's just like my Weeble Wobble, up here. Great childhood toy. They still make them, or they used to. I don't know if they still do it. But this little guy right here, nostalgia in a nutshell. He's from 1975 as well, I believe. Yes, Hasbro, 1975. My little pirate Weeble Wobble. They weeble, wobble, and they don't fall down because, as you see, they're weighted eggs. They weeble, they wobble, but they don't fall down. You know, so no matter what you do, they're not gonna fall down. No matter what you do to them, you know. And they had bigger sizes than this one, but this was the little pirate guy. He does show his age just a little bit. Weeble is the last name, and so just fun stuff. He did have his little stash of gold under his arm and his little anchor tattoo on his forearm right here. Kind of like Popeye did. But yeah, little Weeble Wobbles from 1975, and I didn't want to drop him because it might crack him. I don't know. I don't want to crack him. I can put him on a smoother edge, but you don't want to keep that little piece to the back a little bit. You don't want that in his face, though. Come here, dude. Come here. Hold on. I wanna. There we go. But he is scratched up. He was played with. So and he still looks good for his age. 1975. But yeah. So there you go. A Weeble Wobble. They weeble, they wobble, but they don't fall down. No matter how you set them down. So yeah, no, it's just the stuff that we have or had as kids, completely different than everything now. Things were meant to last back then because they knew the value of a dollar. You know, whereas today everything's disposable. Even your furniture is disposable. That's why it's made out of the cheapest material that they can get, unless you find a reputable dealer that sells actual wood product. You know, most everything is made out of particle board. As soon as it gets wet, it's done. It's toast. You know, and and that's just today's times. Oh, it's disposable money. Oh, we're making money left over right, so we'll get new stuff. Doesn't matter if it gets wet or ruined. You know, and that's the mindset of a lot of people of today. It's just like, oh, if it gets ruined, we'll get another piece. We'll get something else. That's where I like to build my own stuff. Like my desk. It's out of live edge all the way around my room in here. Three pieces of live edge. You know, a portion of it I cut down to make work in here because it was too wide or whatever. Um, but it's a floating desk. It does have the braces going into it, all the way across, all the way down, and all the way back. You know, and yes, Amish make some of the best furniture. They make some of the best buildings. Let's just be real. You know, and they make their own stuff. When it comes to nails and things like that, they forge their own. You know, and then they use the wood peg system, which is one of the best because once that gets wet, it swells and makes it the joint tighter. You know, and that's what she said. Um, sorry, I couldn't resist, Casey. But yes, Amish make some of the best stuff in the world. And guess what else? They don't get sick a lot. They process their own foods. They don't buy FDA approved stuff. Just a thought for you out there. Um, but yeah, no. And I've watched a lot of those Amish building shows and things like that as well. And it is it's just a totally diverse culture. That's pretty awesome. It's kind of like moving to Alaska or somewhere out in the bush somewhere where you don't have access to grocery stores on a regular basis. Um, where you're growing your own foods, where you're processing your own meats, where you're, doing all this stuff. Because let's just get real. Your turkeys, your chickens, a lot of your meats that you get in the store have been injected with something to preserve them a little bit longer. Okay? And that's not healthy for your system, by any stretch of the imagination. Um and we're not going to get into the whole political aspect of it all. We're not going to get into the whole, but just watch what you eat, you know. Um, yes, much like in Maine, because Casey's got access to tons of great range free animals and lean meats, you know. And he gave me a website to a pretty cool place that I'm gonna have to order some stuff from, just to try it. Say, hey, yeah, I tried that stuff, and it's relatively cheap stuff. A lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. Whenever he started talking to me about some of the meats that he has in his freezer, and there's still a lot of meats out there that I want to try that I haven't tried yet. Like he was talking about bear and kangaroo and some of the other stuff, and they're like antelope and elk. I haven't tried those yet, but I want to. The bear and the kangaroo, that as well. I haven't tried those, but I've tried so many others, out there that it's just a great better tasting burger than a regular hamburger, than even a Wagyu beef or just your grass fed beef burgers or Angus or whatever, you know. But in Buffalo, great burger. It tastes great, has great flavor. It's just the difference of meat. The whole aspect of you know how it was processed. It doesn't have the FDA stamp of approval on it because it was processed at a plant that has the fresh bison and all that stuff. And so it's just like venison, deer and your turkeys and your duck and stuff like that that you process your own. There's just a different flavor all the way around. That a lot of people don't know because, oh well, I get my ground beef from the grocery store. I get my chicken and turkey from the grocery store. It's already been processed by these big companies out there. Tyson, Simmons, so on and so forth, Butterball. But, you know, Rue has eaten a lot in Australia. So I tried it and loved it. Put bacon with it because it is so lean. Yeah, I can understand that. And just looking at the cuts of meat that you sent me on that little website, you can tell the difference. You can see the difference. Let's just be real. Um, but yeah, no, it's take some notes from the Amish. I mean, yes, they're basically from a different planet. They live completely different than everybody else. They do go through the Ross Springer, however you want to say it, and which means they get to go live like the world for a few days. I think it's a week, and then they come back and decide if they want to be part of the world or remain part of the Amish society. You know, they've lived like the world for that week, so they've got the choice. Unlike some families, no, you're going to be this the rest of your life. Um, and if you try to change from that, well, it doesn't work out for you in our society and culture. You know. Yes. Yes. Yep. I remember that. I remember seeing that show, the Amish show. I can't remember what it was called, but they showed their going from the Amish lifestyle to their partying style, and then some choose to stay, with the world, and then some that choose to go back to the Amish society because they're like, I can't handle that. You know, that's their coming of passage, basically their Greek Isle where they sent the boys off to become men. Let's not get started on that one either. Back in the Roman Empire days. But yes, as he said, it's a pure process what they do. They hand make everything. Um, oh, one of the stars is on here. Oh, very cool. And he would have more to say about it than I would. You know. Yes, yes, Roy. Amish Gone Wild, your favorite show. Yes, grass fed, and just you don't have to worry about all the different hormones and chemicals and things like that they give to um, just your regular cattle that you get, you know. And that's why I like the X Files because they covered a lot of this stuff in their shows. Even the Amish being a different breed of cat in their show. Um, but they talked about the shot hormones that the cattle would get, and how it got into our systems and things like that as we ate it, and all that good stuff. So, X Files was onto a lot of things. They were into the whole conspiracy theories and the real life stuff. So I'm sure you did, Roy, because I'm sure that they were totally in a Playboy magazine. Oh Lord, Roy, what's wrong with you? I'm not the only one asking that, Roy. There's the other people asking that. What's wrong with you? That's why I like Jugs magazine because there was no Amish anything in there. So you read all the stories, correct? That's all I read it for. Was just for the stories. Uh, no, my stepdad had those readily available, all different kinds from Hustler, Playboy, Jugs, and a few others, out there. And that's how my education came into the whole sexual revolution. Was through those. Only a few, if that. Yeah. Uh huh. We understand what you were doing with that magazine. That's why some of the pages didn't separate later on. It was informative. Yeah, all those articles in there. Oh lordy, you guys, you guys. No, but that's what makes this great. I mean, if you want that type of stuff, go get you a heavy metal magazine. There's that type of stuff in there too. um, and it's much more entertaining because that act could be going on, and then their head gets blocked off. Those type things. Because of it's a sci-fi comic. Those type things. But no, that's childhood right there, because that stuff was readily available. I mean, it's still readily available now. I mean, but heck, that used to be on the Walmart shelves. Back with the regular books back in the day, because it was back then. It wasn't so much taboo in reality. It gave you all of her measurements on the centerfold there, buddy, and her likes. She likes rowing on a brisk morning. She likes coffee in hand. Uh huh. 5'8", 36, 22, 34. You know, all that good. That's all the information you got. She likes to jog with her dog in her lingerie. So yes, that's how those read. And drinking pina coladas in the sand without an umbrella in the cup or over her. Got to get those tan lines covered. But yeah, no, I mean even Cassandra Peterson was in Playboy. You know, Pamela Anderson. I mean some of the greats. And I'm talking about Elvira. If you don't know who Cassandra Peterson is, Mistress of the Dark. And Casey, I've got a ton more movies to talk to you about as well. One that I'm surprised I do not have in my collection that I need to find for my collection is The Last Unicorn. As a matter of fact, talking about nostalgia. Yeah, Marilyn Monroe was in there. I mean, like I said, you had tons of greats in there. And and so you got all kinds of nostalgic movies out there. Legend being one. I just watched that one again the other day. And uh, The Last Unicorn, great cartoon. Uh, but I need to find it for my collection, to be honest. And then as I was going through all these DVDs to send suggestions to someone, I found a ton more that was just like, oh yeah, Logan's Run, um, Willow, uh, Labyrinth, and Dark Crystal, and I mean the list goes on and on. I love the Bra Lady. She would be 100 now. And which Bra Lady is that? I mean, you had Zsa Zsa Gabor, one of the greats, Chiquita Bananas, and oh, Cross Your Heart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember those commercials. But Charo, with her bananas on her head, her fruit basket, her fruit bowl on her head, and her cha-chas hanging out, basically. And she was awesome. Another one of those that people would have, 25,000 followers watching the show if she was on right now. Or my two over here, you know, and because her cha-chas were hanging out and her fruit on her head. But yeah, no, that's why a lot of men watch commercials. Yeah, Jane Mansfield. Yep, yep. And those are the reasons why guys watch commercials, because your cha-chas are hanging out on the commercials. Now let's get real. You go over to like France or Italy or places like that. They've got nudity commercials. Because over there it's not as taboo as it is over here. Oh my gosh, I just saw an areola. Oh, I can't handle it. Oh, Martha, Martha, and Raquel Welch, absolutely. I mean, you had so many stars that could care less if they were naked or whatever. You know, I'm getting paid for it, so why not? This gives every man a fantasy to look at. as I'm running on 10 down the beach, you know. And the times were different back then. And now, as they push the limits further and further on TV, where you see side boob or you start using the F word on the regular television, Shannon Tweed, who's married to Gene Simmons, who we talked about earlier on in the show. Jane Russell was Cross Your Heart. Okay, I remember her as Jane Russell. But yeah, so much is different, you know, and it would be a culture shock to us, that grew up on the commercials of today, and go over to a European country, Italy, France, over there, and we start seeing nakedity on the commercials. We'd be like, "What the?" You know, and then you'd have Roy over in a corner for some of the commercials. But you know, because it's a totally different culture. Over there, people walk around topless. Over here, you do it, you get arrested. You know, completely different culture. And so what culture do you want to live in? Me, let's go to Alaska. Let's go fight some bears. But no, it's all the stuff here. I want to be free. Well, you're in Maine. It's pretty free there. I mean, hell, you got Canada right across the river. Um, but no, I get what you're saying, and that's the whole aspect to a lot of what we want as people. Is that we want that freedom to do what we want without having consequences. Just like, here you go. We got pulled over yesterday as we're driving in the speed limit, and next thing I know, we're getting pulled over. And nice officer, sheriff's department. But he's like, the reason I pulled you over is because the cracked windshield. As I was driving behind you, it was reflecting back into my eyes, and causing a distraction to me, which it wasn't causing a because it's not in my line of sight. The crack that's in her windshield on her car. And then he's like, and all this stuff hanging down from your rearview mirror. I'm not going to give you a ticket on it. It's just going to be a warning, to get that stuff taken care of. And it's just like, you're the first person to ever do this. We've had plenty of police officers behind us that have never pulled us over once. Daylight hours, dark hours, whatever. And it's just like, so we can't have stuff hanging from our rearview mirrors now. Why not? Because I can't see the full road. Come on now. You were just bored and needed something to do, you know. And then you saw that I had a military beanie on that said I was a veteran. I don't know what he was doing, but we pulled over, as soon as he put on his lights. We complied to everything, pulled off enough to where he wouldn't get hit by traffic and all that good stuff. Because normally they come up on the opposite side. Uh, Showed them that we had insurance. You know, uh, Everything was in regs except for the broken windshield, which isn't in the line of sight. Now, if it was across the vision and spidered in the vision, I can understand that. Because that is a hazard. But it's just like, we're not doing anything. You can pull up my record all you want to, and you're not going to find anything. So, you can fish all you want. It's not like we've got, you know, 420 in the car, and we don't have this big plume of smoke coming out the window as soon as we opened it up, all that good stuff. And, well, he didn't give a ticket, so he's not meeting a quota. So, it was just a warning. So there was no sense in getting pulled over because, again, she's had this stuff on her rearview mirror for going on 4 years, 5 years now, since she's had the car, basically. Some of that stuff's been on there since she owned the car, you know, and all of a sudden now it's an issue. Just like A friend of mine in Florida, he's like, if you have the license plate cover going around your license plate, you better start taking it off now because they're taking that serious here in Florida now because it does obstruct the license plate, you know? No, it's just a regular tag. It's not a country tag. It's just a regular Arkansas tag. Hers isn't special. Hers is just what she got when she got her car X amount of years ago. And mine is the disabled veterans tag or a military tag. You know, either one because on the truck it's a disabled veterans tag. The other one I've got is here at the house somewhere, but it was the one. It's just my regular military tag. You know, no, not a different country. No, not here. So it's just your standard Arkansas tag. So, but I don't know. It's the things are getting crazy out there when it comes to what's happening. Because, like I said, in Florida, they're starting to pull people over more and more that have the license plate covers, and including um, the the smoked out license plate piece that goes over your license plate because is obstructing the license plate. You know, and he's like, "So yeah, I'm going to take mine off and put it on my mother-in-law's car, so she can get pulled over." So it's just crazy. And I saw a thing on TikTok about that too. Yes, I've seen that too. I've heard about that, and I've seen some people that have tried to use it. I don't know if it actually works or not, but apparently it can. Um, but yeah, no, it's some of these laws that are still around. I mean, hell, you still have 1800 laws. You know, you can't have your horse and buggy out on the streets after a certain hour. You know, in certain states, and it's just like, are you freaking kidding me? Look, laws need to be updated for today's times. You know, we shouldn't be living in 1800, you know, law frame. You know, those should be abolished already. Anything past 1950 should be abolished. You know, when it comes to laws, but no, they're still in effect. And you go look at some of your state's crazy laws that are still in effect from the 1800s. You'll be surprised. You know, and and it's just nuts. I mean, that we would get pulled over after 3 years, and even when we did get tickets, they never said remove this stuff, from the rear view mirror. You know, because we have gotten a few tickets in her car, from different states as we were coming back from comic book conventions, and I was the one driving. So, those type things. And but they never said, hey, remove all that stuff from your rear view mirror. You know, this is the first one that said, that's an obstruction. Blah blah blah. It has a whole list of stuff in the warning, which I wish I had in here. It's still in her car, I think, because it was a warning. Who cares? You know, she did go ahead and take most of the stuff off of her rear view mirror, which was stupid, in and of itself. But I just don't understand sometimes. And then for him to say, "Oh, you're reflecting of the break in your windshield as it was reflecting back in mine. It was causing a distraction to me." Like, well, it's not a distraction to me because it the way it splits from where the rock hit the windshield, it goes around your face, you know. So it's not across the vision or anything like that, and it doesn't distract me. So, well, he had it written down, or it's in the warning statement, and like I said, I'll have it for next time, and I'll read it. But it's just ridiculous, and it's just like, I get the windshield. You know, it is a hazard if, as it has said, if it's in your line of vision, it's a hazard. Well, it's not even in her line of vision, because again, it it kind of splits and then goes around your face. So, say as we're looking at the screen, let me pull this in here. So, right here is where the brake is. It goes right here, and then the other one goes down here at an angle like this, right down here. So nothing is in this area. It's all up here, and down here. But again, I understand a cracked windshield can cause, issues if it's spidered in your line of vision because now I can't see very well because I've got this reflection of the light and all that stuff from the sun causing that prismatic effect, all that good stuff. So, yes, it is a problem that we need to get fixed you know, it will get fixed. So, but it's just crazy. But there are the ordinances and the laws on a lot of different things. Again, some of it needs to be abolished. Um, and good. I'll poke you in the eyeball again. Come here. I'll use the pointy side this time. Bing, 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 bing. Um, yes, this is a tool that you use in um, clay work for sculpting and things like that. So yeah, no, it a lot of the ordinances need to be abolished. To be honest, got me in the ear. Drain that fluid. And it's just crazy how many people still enact rules and laws that were made, when cars were first invented, as the horse and buggy was going away. You know, just crazy, just crazy. And then just some of the regular rules that are, like you can't beat your dog after sundown in certain states. It's just stupidity. That let's get rid of those. Okay, let's not beat the dogs or cats ever. That should just be a immediate jail sentence. You know, if you do that stuff. But no, it's just crazy to me. You know, two cars in a state they got in a wreck. Did you see that old picture? Oh, like at a stoplight or something like that, like in like 1918 or something. When the cars uh first started rolling out. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just shows that they got their driver's license in a Cracker Jacks box. Okay, I mean that's where I got mine, but at least it's up to date. And it came with a few rules. Don't eat your Cracker Jacks on the way to the red light. Don't eat your Cracker Jacks while you're trying to make a turn. Those type of things. But yeah, no, I've seen that picture. That's a great old picture. Because how in the world two vehicles get into a wreck at a red light? How long has Cracker Jacks been around? I think it's a wartime thing. When was Cracker Jacks invented? Let's find out. Because I want to know. I remember, I mean, I loved them as a kid. World War One. That's your guess? Cracker Jack was introduced in 1893, Chicago World's Fair by brothers Frederick and Louis Ruckheim, as a sticky popcorn and peanut confection with the famous name and less sticky recipe perfected and trademarked in 1896. So it came out in 1893, leading to its commercial success and iconic prizes in the 1910s. There you go. Yep, 1893 is when it was invented. And like I said, the world famous confection right there in the Cracker Jack, and it was a little bit different of a logo when it came out, as I'm looking at it. But the first small toys are inserted into the boxes, a marketing strategy that became a huge hit in 1912. So 1893 is when that happened. It became trademarked in 1896 with a less sticky creation. And then in 1912 is when the toys came out. The snack became famous especially as a ballpark staple, immortalized by the 1908 song "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." All that goody good stuff. So there you go. 1893. Good stuff. And it was good stuff. I mean, it was meant to last. I mean, I'm sure one of those 1893 packages is still sticking around somewhere. Literally sticking around since it was quite sticky at the time. Um, the brothers developed a method to make the molasses less sticky, and the product is officially named Cracker Jacks in 1896. Oh, that's how it got its name. Okay. Um, because and the product is officially named Cracker Jack with the name and slogan registered. Legends Legend says a customer exclaimed, "That's a Cracker Jack," meaning that's excellent, and that's how Cracker Jacks got its name. And so, 3 years after it was created for the World's Fair, the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. There you go. Yeah, the peanuts were great in there. Gave it that bit of a flavor, but besides the molasses. But molasses is good too, and to go out and get your own pure molasses, that's even better. A sticky confection. Bum, bum. So yeah, no, that's pretty cool stuff. I want to look at that right there. Let's see here. Ruckum Brothers and Eckstein, Cracker Jack and Candy Makers out of Brooklyn, New York. Some of these advertisements that they did were just ridiculous. It shows the Cracker Jacks coming out of the box with a kid opening his mouth trying to catch the Cracker Jacks. And it said, "Gee, wouldn't it be great if it snowed Cracker Jacks?" It's just a creepy commercial back in the day. But yeah, no, it's it's quite interesting, to say the least on that. Let me just do this. I'm gonna try and do something here. Let's see if we can't get it over here, and then do this. Oh, you're going to bed. How cute, big baby. I'm sick. I've been here the whole time. I appreciate it though. I'm going to bed now. I'm going to bed. I've been up all night. I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. Hey, hold on. What happened to your lat girls last night, Roy? What happened to your lat girls? I thought they were going to win it all. Sorry, Roy. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. All right, we'll see. Bum, bum, bum. But it is kind of a creepy commercial. They had creepy commercials and advertisements back in the day. That would be very borderline today, if you know what I mean. We're gonna see if it's gonna print for us since we've been having some technical difficulties this morning. Where you at? There you are. Get you back up the car so I can say all that good stuff. All right, here we go. Yes, it's gonna print for us. He's gonna print, and I'll have the other stuff printed out for next time, and we'll show you what I'm talking about with the other stuff. Maybe it'll print. What the freak? We're not in cassette 2, you freak-hearted monkey. Just print. Okay. Apparently, it's not. Nothing's gonna print this morning, and I don't know. Yeah. Thanks. I'll have all this stuff printed out for next time. So. GD Go AED. I got you. It's all good. Take me out to the ball game. But no, I am going to kill it. I got some aminals that I got to let back in. I left them out to do their thing and get some sleep and all that good stuff. But anyway, I will talk to you all later. And as I like to say, as we kick it out of here, we will catch you on the flip side. Have a good day, everybody.